Hello, everyone. I'm Reese.
And I'm Kelsey.
And you're listening to Charismatic Megafauna.
Hello, everybody. We're back.
We are back.
So if you've just picked up starting to listen to us, or if you've gone back to listen to old episodes and you're wondering why there's these random breaks, Reese and I have the show structured so that we can do 3 sub-seasons and then take a little bit of time off to get our topics and everything else ready for our next mini-season. Mm-hmm. So we are back from our first little break, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, about being back.
Yeah.
The break was nice.
But it's nice to be back.
It's very nice to be back.
And since we took a nice hiatus, we're deciding to switch things up a little bit. Reese is going to do this week's about what he learned.
Yeah.
What you learned this week. It's been long enough. I don't remember the name of
Yeah, wait. Do you know the name of the podcast?
What am I doing here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Reese just shoved a microphone in my face.
We're rusty. It's been a month and we don't know how to do this anymore.
But we're back. No, Reese is going to do his version of what he learned this week, and I get to listen, which is super fun.
Yeah.
We're going to continue in normal fashion, though. I'm going to do the main topic. Reese is going to do his rocket surgery. And then at the end, we have a fun little surprise that we'll talk about when we get there.
That's right. Can't wait.
So, Reese.
Yeah.
What'd you learn this week?
Well, I learned about something called the Library of Babel. Are you at all familiar with this?
Is it at all related to... Wait. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Babel fish. It's the fish that goes in the ear and translates all languages. It's
sort of related to that, yeah.
Okay.
It's only related in that they're all related to, like, the story of the Tower of Babel. Like, that's the common thread, I think, among all these.
I'm not super familiar with the Tower of Babel.
The tower, just to give a brief rundown to anybody else who might not be familiar, the Tower of Babel is this story in the Bible where basically before this, everybody spoke the same language, and they all decided to get together and build this giant tower up to heaven so that they could be, like, on the level with God. God didn't like that, so he was like, nah, I'm going to make you all speak different languages so that you can't communicate with each other and build this tower.
He's never heard of Duolingo.
No, exactly right. That's Duolingo's mission, is to get us to the point where we can communicate to build that Tower of Babel.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So the Library of Babel is based on a short story of the same name by Jorge Luis Borges. Borges. I had to Google how to say his name, but it's awesome. Jorge Luis Borges.
I love it.
I know. The story describes a vast library containing all possible 410-page books of a certain format and character set.
Why 410 pages?
I don't know. I've never read the story.
Oh.
I lifted that straight from Wikipedia.
Nice.
But I'd like to read the story after this. It sounds really interesting. The library consists of an enormous expanse of adjacent hexagonal or hexagonal.
I say hexagonal, but I'm not the end-all be-all of information.
I'm going to go with you, because I don't know either way. Hexagonal rooms, each of which contains the bare necessities for human survival, and 4 of the walls contain bookshelves.
Okay.
And these bookshelves have these 410-page books. Based on this model, I don't know who it is that did this site, but it's this project that somebody did online. It's basically a website. So it's this website that is supposed to be an online universal library. And a universal library is a library that potentially contains all existing information, useful information, all books, all works, regardless of format, or even all possible works that may not exist yet.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's a pretty mind-blowing idea. This would be an online version of that, and if completed, it would contain every possible combination of 1,312,000 characters, including lowercase letters, space, comma, and period.
Okay. Does that mean that they don't have to actually make sense? It can just be the arrangement of letters.
Yeah, pretty much. So the idea is that it's every possible combination of those, and within that combination, there are parts that will make sense and they will say things, but it just happens to be the fact that it's randomly categorized that way. Like it's not like somebody uploaded, say, the works of Shakespeare to this website. It's just that the works of Shakespeare can be contained within that because it's all possible combinations.
Is it still within that 410 page mark?
I don't know that the online version is. It might be. I haven't dug too deep into the website itself.
Okay.
But you have it pulled up over there, right?
I do.
All right. So if you go to search, you can basically search anything and it should be in there.
What shall I search?
I think you should search Kelsey Jennings becomes or elected first intergalactic mayor of Mars.
Oh my goodness.
Is it in there?
It is.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
This is bizarre. So that begs the question for me. Are there people who believe that through finding phrases within the nonsense, you can predict futures? Elon Musk, watch out.
Yeah.
I will be the first intergalactic mayor of Mars.
Yeah, he's gonna hear this and he's gonna Google that sentence and then he's gonna freak out because he thinks you're gonna be the mayor of Mars.
Maybe I should collaborate with him.
Yeah.
Because I have no other way to become the mayor of Mars without a sponsor.
I feel like we might need to make a little more money than we do to be part of that project. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because it could potentially contain every written work that exists or will ever exist. It's just any possible written work.
It would have to.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can search anything and it's insane. So that's what I learned. It's crazy. I don't know why necessarily this would need to exist.
I'm so glad that it does though.
Yeah. And it's this kind of website that I think the reason I haven't approached it too much and actually spent a lot of time is just because there's so much you can do and I don't even know where to start.
I would like to add to that. Kelsey Jennings, elected first intergalactic mayor of Mars, shows up 4 times, not just once.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You could honestly write an entire novel, search it in there. Maybe there's a character limitation.
3,200 characters is the limit.
There you go. Okay. So you could write a short story and...
Theoretically, it would be in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
So since it's our first episode back, I'm straying a little bit from my normal path in terms of content for my main topic.
Yeah?
A little bit. So we ended on fairy tales, so I was already moving in this direction. But I'd like to sprinkle in some more topics that I'm super interested in, but that maybe aren't exactly related to biological science.
Okay. They're still in the realm of science, kind of?
Yes, although this one, less so.
How do you mean?
You'll find out.
Okay. Go on.
My topic for today is marketing campaigns that changed the world. Be it culturally, be it creating new industries. In some way, these campaigns either changed the world or caused a cultural shift that changed how we interact with our environments and our world.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're going to start with everybody's favorite topic, diamonds.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
So I've heard.
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah. Can't quite recall. So De Beers is a company that is in control of a lot of diamond-related things. And they're really the reason that diamonds are a staple for engagement rings. So if your grandmother got engaged in the interim between World War I and World War II, they might not have a diamond ring. They might have a sapphire ring or a ring of some other type of precious gem, an emerald, something fun like that.
Why would that be?
Buckle up. We're getting there. Because in 1938, diamond companies were really struggling. I know, boo-hoo, poor them.
I know. I really feel for them.
Yeah. But they were just completely fraught with decreasing demand. People believed that diamonds were only for the rich. They saw them as unnecessary and frilly and just super over the top. And especially in 1938, people tended to be a little bit more conservative with their spending.
Sure.
So, De Beers, this diamond company, hired a marketing campaign to figure out how to sell more diamonds. And they came up with not a diamond is a girl's best friend, unfortunately, but instead a diamond is forever, which I'm sure many of you have heard.
Isn't that a James Bond one?
Yes, and I'll talk about that briefly.
Sure.
It built into this idea that the general longevity of a diamond, so diamonds are the hardest stone, so people believe that they're indestructible, which isn't true, but it is almost true. Diamonds are pretty hard to mess with. But it linked this idea of the eternity of a diamond to the eternity of love. And it really tapped into this dichotomy where if you have a diamond ring, your love will last forever. Sort of the idea.
Yeah.
But it really entered our cultural lexicon to the point where there's a James Bond film titled A Diamond is Forever.
Crazy.
Now, this one's sort of a twofer because De Beers did it again in the 80s by alluding that the amount you spent on your diamond was equivalent to your partner's worth. So I believe it was a full-page spread. It was a picture of a beautiful woman, and it said something like, "Is Jane worth 2 months' salary?" Which, to me now, is so stupid.
Yeah.
However, at the time, it really resonated with people, and it really created this idea that diamonds should be worth as much as you can spend on them. So I'm sure a lot of you, especially people who bought engagement rings or were in the process, have ever been through the process of buying a diamond engagement ring. There is an idea that that diamond should be worth 2 to 3 months' salary, which is not something I agree with. I'm not super into diamonds in general. And the diamonds that I do have are lab grown.
Yeah.
They're monstrosities to some people.
Unbelievable.
But De Beers really tapped into that. And people still buy diamond rings under the impression that they should be 3 months' salary, or that the amount they spend is equivalent to how much they love their partner. Dangerous idea. Don't love that.
That's marketing at work, though.
Oh, it completely, so successful, completely worked. Especially because diamonds are not rare or precious inherently. De Beers owns stockroom after stockroom after stockroom full of diamonds. And they control how many are released per year so that they can keep the demand high and the cost high.
Holy cow, I didn't know that.
Evil.
Yeah.
Evil.
So it's just like this arbitrary standard that they set
Yeah.
to sell diamonds?
Yep. And it completely works because people still continue to spend an insane amount of money on diamonds that they give to their partners.
I have a feeling that this segment is going to make me lose all faith in the American consumer.
It's possible, but we are starting on a down note. We'll end on a high note.
Okay. All right.
We're starting on the down. Before we move on to the next one, I don't want to shame anybody for liking diamonds. My ring is encrusted with diamonds. And if that's what you really want, there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to highlight the fact that a marketing company has been highly successful in making a lot of people desire diamonds.
Yeah.
All right, on to number 2.
Number 2.
Reese, do you know what Clairol is? It's a company.
I think I've heard the name of the company, but I don't know what they do.
If you've been to a drugstore, you've seen them.
Yeah.
Because they sell hair dye. Specifically the box hair dye.
Right.
That every 13-year-old girl has bought or thought about buying or bought for a friend.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not the target demographic for that.
No, but maybe someday you will.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a marketing campaign that will appeal only to men. Obviously,
I feel like that
just
exists.
for men.
Yeah.
Already exists.
There you go.
Anyways, in 1957, dyeing your hair was rare and pretty taboo, but that changed with a marketing campaign put out by Clairol. It was a campaign called Does She or Doesn't She?, where women were shown with natural looking but like really luminous and beautiful hair, and a classic white 50s male voiceover would talk about her as she was looking in the mirror and brushing her hair. But the moral of it is he would say, does she or doesn't she? And then she'd brush her hair and she'd flip her hair. Does she or doesn't she? Only her and her hairdresser know. Which is hilarious. Again, one of those that now we look at it and it's hilarious.
Hairdresser customer confidentiality applies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at the time, only about 7% of women dyed their hair. After this ad, and within 10 years, about 50% of women regularly dyed their hair.
Holy cow.
That's a huge increase.
Was it just because there's that perception of like dyeing your hair would have to be some crazy color?
No, it was because the idea of dyeing your hair was pretty taboo. Not because you're changing your hair color, but just because it was an unnecessary thing to do. Women were allowed to just age gracefully at that point. Well, that's not true, really. But gray hair wasn't seen as like this big problem. Part of this marketing campaign was lines such as gray hair doesn't look luminous, strands of gray make you look worn out, things like that. So they introduced a new way for women to be self-conscious. We're not going to talk about that today because I could go on and on about how companies, utilize the insecurities of women to sell them products.
Yeah, that's its own topic.
Right. But getting back to it, it really changed the ideas of dyeing your hair to the point where there was over a 5-time increase. The increase in women who dyed their hair went from 7 to over 50%. Now, I believe this study came from 2018, 75% of people, not just women, 75% of people dye their hair semi-regularly, which doesn't even tap into people who have dyed their hair once. Because I don't dye my hair regularly, but I have in the past. Mm-hmm. The coolest thing about this is that it completely created an industry. Every big box store, every department store has an entire aisle dedicated to at-home hair dyeing kits.
Oh, yeah.
Not to mention how many people go in every 6 weeks to get their hair color touched up, paying hundreds of dollars to their hairdressers. It is crazy to me, but it's also really cool that this one ad it basically said that you cannot tell if somebody dyes their hair in most cases. You're asking, does she dye it or doesn't she dye it? And by putting just that much doubt in people's mind, it really brought to the forefront this idea that, yes, you can dye your hair and it's totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And people wouldn't necessarily know.
Right.
Interesting.
On to the next one.
Okay. I'm ready.
This is the big one because it goes all the way back to the 1700s.
Whoa.
This is Kellogg's cereal.
Oh, man.
So in the late 1700s and early 1800s, breakfast wasn't really a thing. People would wake up and they would eat whatever was left over, whatever was laying around, whatever was easy. This started to change in the mid-1800s as farmers' breakfasts started to appear because eggs were laid in the morning and they were easy and quick to prepare. So people would take the eggs, they'd make them up. Bread is also something that's probably laying around. It's easy to turn it into toast. And then cured meats, bacon,
Sure.
were ready to eat. So you could have this meal of cured meat, bread, and eggs, and you could do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
At the time, people felt like you needed this big meal to really send your energy through the day. Now, at this point, roughly, the Industrial Revolution was leading to people shifting from farm jobs to factory jobs. And this coincided with a healthy living fad, which led to a desire for a lighter breakfast. This is where John Harvey Kellogg enters the equation. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, forgive me. Now, Dr. Kellogg was a highly religious Seventh-day Adventist who opened sanatoriums for sick people. And a big part of his belief system, because he was a medical doctor, was that a bland vegetarian diet was crucial for recovery, not only of the body. So a sanatorium was typically where people who had tuberculosis went to die. I mean, people didn't usually leave sanatoriums.
Yikes.
But it's where people went to try to get better. So Dr. Kellogg believed that this bland diet helped their body feel better, but also their spirit and their soul.
Sure, that makes sense.
Side note, Dr. Kellogg believed that spicy or sweet foods would increase passions, whereas his cornflakes would reduce masturbation and excessive sexual intercourse, which was a big cornerstone of the budding Seventh-day Adventist movement.
Oh, yeah, of course. Too bad my soul loves spicy food.
Same.
Sorry. Can't help it.
Passionate because of all the spicy food I eat, not because of who I am as a person.
Heathen.
But the marketing part comes into this in 1917 when an article written by Lena Cooper was run in Good Health. Good Health was the premier magazine for health at the time. And in this article, Dr. Cooper said, "Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It is the meal that gets the day started." Now, this isn't necessarily an ad. However, it was published by the Battle Creek Sanatorium, which was run by Dr. Kellogg, and it was amidst ads for cornflakes. So this idea that breakfast is the most important meal of the day was very closely tied to the marketing materials Dr. Kellogg was putting out relating to his cereal.
Yeah.
Another quick side note, Dr. Kellogg had a brother, Will Kellogg, and they created cornflakes together, but a huge rift formed in their life and in their business because Dr. Kellogg refused to add anything to the cornflakes, and his brother Will said, "Why don't we just sprinkle a little bit of sugar on it?" Which, of course, absolute heathen.
Yeah.
How dare you put sugar on my bland food?
Yeah.
That is the cornerstone of my success.
Right.
So
Isn't there a drunk history on this?
I was just going to say, if you want to know more, there is a drunk history episode, and it is wonderful and hilarious.
Yeah.
You got to watch it.
I think it's Luke and Owen Wilson, isn't it? They play the brothers?
That sounds right.
I think so.
We could be wrong.
Yeah.
However, to this day, the thought that breakfast is the most important meal of the day is huge. Breakfast cereal is a $37.4 billion industry every year worldwide.
Wow.
And that exists despite research saying that eating breakfast is not necessarily significant one way or another. But also there's a lot of research suggesting that eating large breakfasts are tied to a higher likelihood of being overweight. So it's possible that eating large breakfasts are really negative, that it could be causing bad things in our society.
Why would that be? Is it just because of the type of food you would eat for a large breakfast, or is it because of like I don't know if there's like some, like throughout the day, the change in your body chemistry or whatever, like it's better to eat certain things at certain times?
I think it just boils down to calorie intake.
Okay.
I don't think it's that breakfast is causing people to be overweight. I think it's that people are eating a big breakfast and just all of that excess calorie is making it so that they're intaking a lot more calories.
They're also still eating the same dinner and lunch that they would.
Right.
But they're just also adding a breakfast to that. Plus,
Right.
that breakfast has, bacon and eggs with cheese and
Right.
milk. And yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of very calorie heavy foods.
Yeah. Delicious calorie heavy foods, of course.
Right. Okay, we have two more.
Okay.
The next one I think is my favorite, and I know that you and I have talked about this. It is the Dumb Ways to Die campaign produced by the Melbourne Metro Trains.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this isn't necessarily an ad, but I consider it a marketing campaign still because it is a public service announcement.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a PSA.
Right. Basically, it's a simple cartoon that is dying in dumb ways to a really catchy song. It's a lot of dark humor in the Dumb Ways to Die PSAs. But it also is so fun.
Yeah, it is. I think this is sort of a Australia, New Zealand thing where they kind of have the gallows humor.
Definitely.
And it's as a Scandinavian, I also feel that. So I love this ad campaign. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, it was fabulous. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. It also has spawned 2 mobile games, which were best-selling on app platforms.
Yeah.
And are a lot of fun. I played them.
Really?
Yes, they're a blast.
We'll link the video too.
Yeah,
the
we
video
will.
is fantastic.
But the reason I picked this one is because it was a highly effective campaign. In the year following these campaigns, there was a 21% reduction in accidents and deaths immediately following this PSA.
Wow.
So not only was it hilarious and cute and, spawned a mobile game, it took the internet by storm, it also really helped people to be more wary around trains.
I feel like that's a really effective argument saying, here's how people are being idiots. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah, nobody wants to be an idiot.
Right. Yeah, that's a very strong deterrent.
And if you give them the setup to not be an idiot, they're hopefully not going to be an idiot.
Hopefully.
But yeah, that was just one that I wanted to throw in there because it's so fun.
I love that one.
The video is fun. The cartoons are adorable. They get sawed in half or eaten by a shark, or piranhas eat their privates. There's a whole long list of them. You just got to watch the whole thing.
And the song, like you said, is like it's running in my head right now already. It's just so catchy.
It will be stuck in our heads for the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, for the rest of our lives probably.
I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads us to our very last one. And this one is the one that I said is pretty positive and actually made me really happy as I was reading about it, because it shows me that ad campaigns don't have to be for these big, horrible corporations like Kellogg's or De Beers. They also exist to do good. There have been a lot of ad campaigns that I didn't touch on because they were important, but they were put out by like the World Health Organization or nonprofits that were trying to raise awareness. And while that is super important, I didn't want to do a list of PSAs. We had the one on there. I really wanted to focus on a big company that could be seen as giant and evil, doing something that really impacted communities for good.
Okay.
That leads us to Small Business Saturday, which, if you don't know, is the Saturday after Black Friday. But it was created in 2010 by American Express.
Really?
To try and get more support for small business. So like I said, it began in 2010, and American Express approached their marketing company with the desire to boost sales in their small business merchants. So, little selfish. We start out a little bit on a selfish note.
Yeah.
And this started small, but it has really turned into a movement. American Express truly invested in supporting these small businesses and wanting them to be successful. And it's branched out from American Express. They helped to produce social media toolkits, which Twitter and Facebook jumped onto and helped as well, offering free social media help to small businesses who needed it. They created packets of logos, posters, buttons. They had partners, like I said, like Twitter, Facebook, FedEx, and that helped to create free small business services. They also did this really cool campaign called Neighborhood Champions, which, just to boil down into the simplest form, existed to help small struggling towns bring people to visit their main street and see the small local community shops that existed in their towns.
I love that.
Yeah, it's super cute. The CEO of American Express, after all of this has grown into this huge event, to the point where Reese and I have a shop small bag, a reusable bag that we bring to the store that we got in probably 2014.
Yeah.
That we used this morning.
Yeah. It's a tiny bag, which makes it funny.
Yes. But it's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's something we are going to have for a long time. Anyways, American Express's CEO at the time went on the Today Show and said, "I don't care how you shop, where you shop, or how you pay. This is the day to go out and support small businesses, and we mean it. Small Business Saturday creates more customers for everyone, and we want to make the pie bigger for everyone." That is a sentiment that does not really exist in financial institutions or our culture today.
No, not really.
So seeing this idea that American Express truly is still supporting, I mean, every shop small or every small business Saturday, they're creating these toolkits. They're helping local businesses. They're really trying to invest in these small local family-owned businesses, regardless of how they're getting paid, regardless if they're using American Express. They just truly want to see this market share grow.
Yeah, the funny thing is, for a long time, and maybe this is part of their intention with it, I guess, but for a long time, the small businesses that they're trying to support have not taken American Express because traditionally American Express is better for like foreign purchases.
Right.
But not so great with the hometown places. So a lot of local places people probably know won't take Amex.
Right. And it sort of was born out of necessity because it came at a time, it was right after the recession. We were still dealing with the housing market crash, and we were really in the throes. And because of how everything was set up, we really did need to return to small business. You know, we saw these huge spikes in gas prices. We saw imports and exports costing a lot more. So by creating this environment where, hey, you can just walk 3 blocks and buy coffee beans from your local roaster. You don't need to go to Walmart and buy a big thing. It might cost you a little bit more, but when you take into account the time it takes to get you there, how much time you're taking out of your day to travel across town, to go to Walmart, to buy this thing. And then you also factor in, you're supporting a family that is also struggling with this. It's really important.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of it. I think especially now in this age of Amazon, we are still seeing this shift towards small businesses. And it's been a huge cultural shift, which is another reason I wanted to include this, because I think this is something that for us as millennials, we're going to see this shift continue.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people who are moving in that direction, it's very deliberate. Like a lot of people that we know, when they shop, they deliberately shop somewhere small. And that's how they approach it, because they know they could get the same thing for cheaper at a big place. But there is the mentality that they do want to support the smaller local businesses because they understand the impact that has on their own community and the positive return that they're personally going to get out of it.
Oh, completely. Even when I shop online, if I can find local places that will deliver or that I can get things from, I automatically go there first, regardless of the cost.
Yeah.
And then if I have to go outside of our local area, I tend to shop on places like Etsy or other sites that help you to buy from small local artists instead of heading straight to Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it's better. I prefer to support that. In fact, 93% of consumers now think that it's important to support small business.
93%?
93%, which is huge.
That is huge.
That transcends politics, religion, gender, all of the main big groups. This is something we're all for.
Yeah. It maybe seems like the discrepancy would come in how you implement some of those initiatives.
Right. But the idea is still there.
Yeah, definitely. That's important.
And in addition to that as well, 67% of millennials want to leave their job to become self-employed. So this is a shift we're seeing our peers not only go out of their way to shop local, but they want to be part of that. They want to take this step to creating things that are important to them instead of sitting in a meaningless job for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And I think as we head back into the recession talk just a little bit, I think because millennials were graduating high school and college at the same time as the housing bubble collapse, we saw the effects that these huge businesses and sort of these big evil corporations and financial institutions, we saw that negative loud and clear.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring us to change it.
Yeah, because when it comes to, if there's some big company where it has tons of employees, you're going to talk to somebody who's on the bottom level, and you're not really going to be able to influence any major change in that institution. Compare that to you go to your local market or bank or whatever, and you're only 1 or 2 people away from the owner of the company.
Right. In line with that, I follow a plant-based diet. And I know in our location, there are a lot of other people who do as well. So it was something as simple as Reese and I were at the grocery store, and Reese mentioned to the cashier, hey, why don't you sell this specific brand of vegan brats? And they said, I didn't even know that we had vegan brats. I didn't know that that brand existed in that form. And through that, that person went to their manager, who went to the owner, and they're starting to get those products in. Because Reese and I requested it. You know, we're two people. It's a pretty big market. They must see thousands of people.
It probably wasn't just us.
No, but the fact that it could be something. If I were to go to Walmart and say, hey, you need to get in these vegan brats, I can guarantee that they would just they'd say, okay, that's a really good suggestion. But it would take so long for them to actually implement something like that. Whereas at our local grocery store, it takes a couple of weeks, as long as it takes to order them in.
Yeah, I can tell you, being part of a larger financial institution, more than one large financial institution, people would give me suggestions on a daily basis, and the same suggestions, and I always thought they were great ideas. In fact, a lot of my coworkers did too, and it was just like, yeah, that would be great. I would love it if they did that. They're probably never gonna, though. Like, it was kind of disheartening. So to actually see a change like that is encouraging.
Yeah. Which is sort of why I ended on this one, because I think we're in the middle of this cultural shift still.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to see where it heads. Because I think that if we can get good community-based stores, period, across all disciplines, I think it's going to help to build senses of community. I think it's going to help support local families.
Yeah.
And that's so much better. You know who doesn't need to get any more rich? It's the people who own these giant companies. They don't pay their employees livable wages. People are on food stamps while working full time. It's just, we don't need to support that.
Yeah, well, and not to say that there's not a place for big business in the American economy, because that's like, it's kind of ridiculous to think that there's not.
Right.
But at the same time, there should be a much larger place for local businesses than there is, and that there has been, especially recently.
Yeah. And especially we're in a society now where we vote. Reese and I both vote. Mm-hmm. Voting is super important. But the bottom line is super wealthy people are influencing our politics way more than the American public is. So we take the opportunity to vote with our money. We don't support those huge companies, those people who are lobbying for specific things that don't make sense for the American public, but make sense if you're a billionaire.
Which might sound kind of like we're on our soapbox a little bit, but it's honestly been kind of hard. It's been something that we've had to work on because we feel passionately about that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's another thing to me that transcends political beliefs.
Definitely.
Because we should all be supporting businesses that align with us. But yeah, after sort of that winding road of conversation we just had, good job, American Express.
Yeah.
Good job just supporting small businesses and, like you said, creating a bigger pie for everybody.
Yeah.
And just so everybody else knows now, marketing is sneaky.
Yeah.
It influences everything we do. It permeates everything. And yeah.
Yeah, it very deliberately puts these ideas in our head, which clearly don't just stop at, I recognize that marketing campaign. Now it's like part of the cultural lexicon, and that informs the decisions of why we buy things. And I think that's the intention. It's marketing departments doing their jobs well, but
yeah,
it can be sneaky.
Use your noodle.
Use your noodle. So I would like to start today's rocket surgery off with a quote from Charles Darwin.
I'm ready.
You've probably heard this one. Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge.
Say it again.
You're going to make me stumble over it again? Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. So if you've heard that quote, you might know where I'm going with this already. It's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Different from the Freddy Krueger effect.
Yeah. Yes. That's when you can't die in your dream because you die in real life, right?
Yep.
Okay. The Dunning-Kruger effect, I'm sure most of our audience is probably familiar with. This is a subject that has completely blown up in recent years, particularly the last 2 to 3 years.
What year is it?
What year is it right now?
Yeah.
It's 2019.
When was Trump elected?
2016.
Been about 3 years.
About 3 years. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is the same knowledge that underlies the ability to produce correct judgment is also the knowledge that underlies the ability to recognize correct judgment.
Could you say that in English, please?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
But to lack the former is to be deficient in the latter. So basically what it's saying is if you're good at something, the knowledge that it takes to be good at that thing is also the knowledge that it takes to recognize that you are good at that thing. If you're bad at something, you lack the knowledge to recognize that you're bad at that thing. That's the inverse of that.
Would this boil down to, in a little bit of a way, ignorance is bliss?
A little bit, yeah. There are certainly some implications there. So this idea came from a 1999 study by David Dunning and Justin Kruger. The study itself is made up of 4 studies that cover various skills and competencies, like humor, logical reasoning, and English grammar. Logical reasoning is study number 2 and 4.
Okay.
This was inspired by a criminal case of MacArthur Wheeler, who is a guy from, I think, Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or something.
Wait, that's his full name?
Yeah, MacArthur Wheeler is this guy's name.
I thought it was 2 last names. That's
Yeah.
fabulous.
I know, isn't it amazing? Somehow it gets even better. So he was watching a documentary or something, and he learned that lemon juice was used for invisible ink.
Oh my gosh.
Do you see where this is going?
Does he cover himself in lemon juice thinking it will make him invisible?
Yeah, so he covers his face in lemon juice and proceeds to rob like 2 or 3 banks.
Hell yes. MacArthur, not living up to your name, but I love it.
I know, it's amazing. So the police show up at his door. He even, apparently in this process, he even like smiled at one of the video cameras. And the police show up and he's like blown away that they caught him because he thought he was invisible.
Which, man, look in the mirror before you leave the house.
Apparently he like took a picture of himself to prove that he was invisible, but there was something about the angle of the camera that he just like he shot the ceiling or something and he was like, "Yep, I'm invisible."
Man.
I know, amazing. So that really inspired this study to be done. And the study has implications in a lot of various disciplines. You see this showing up in things like political knowledge, driving skills, religion, health, leadership skills, ethics, financial knowledge, and so on. It's a lot of different skills that are pretty universal skills that everybody functioning in society kind of needs to have. So when they kind of the nutshell is that when they asked people how good they thought they were at something, people would almost always say that they were above average in that thing, which statistically obviously is impossible.
I always love this. I can't remember where the quote comes from, but it is, think about how stupid the average person is. Now think about the fact that 50% of people are stupider than that person. We all want to believe we're above average.
Yeah.
We're not.
That's a major part of it. I think everybody honestly believes that they're above average. And I think it's a little bit, there's this thing called the Lake Wobegon effect. Are you familiar with this?
No, but it's I'm ready.
It comes from the old radio show Prairie Home Companion, and one of the taglines is where all the men are, at something, all the women are good looking, and all the children are above average. It's this idea that everybody thinks that they're above average anywhere. So the Lake Wobegon effect is basically that everybody anywhere, whether they're above average or far below average usually, thinks that they're above average.
Wow.
So I think that those two ideas are majorly connected, I think, and I think that idea stems from this, that people can't recognize how bad they are at something. So the study itself doesn't just cover that idea, the one idea that people who are bad at something are bad at recognizing it. It covers a lot of other things, but that's kind of the main thing that came out of it. And that's what the Dunning-Kruger effect is.
Okay.
You're probably familiar with some people who are subject to this. One of my favorites is Gwyneth Paltrow, is like one of the big celebrity names that comes up.
Man.
Because she gives her health advice and...
Yeah, if you don't know, because Reese and I talk about this semi-frequently because she's ridiculous.
I know.
She sells... Homeopathic is, I think, the word she would use.
Yeah.
But it is fake science BS.
Right.
So one of the things that she sells that is like the thing everybody goes to is a jade egg that you stick into your vagina. And it is supposed to make your vagina youthful and wonderful.
Wait, that doesn't work?
I mean, here's the thing. Practicing exercises can make you experience more sexual pleasure. But she very much jumps into it's a jade egg.
Yeah.
You have to use jade.
It's got to be jade.
And also, she sells these stickers that are supposed to regulate your body. But you literally just stick like a sticker of Buzz Lightyear on your face. It makes no difference.
Like the Ninja Turtles tattoos from the arcade in the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would be one thing if she was selling these things on Etsy for $4, but she sells these things for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And people spend that money. People buy this stuff.
Right, and that's because, I mean, first of all, it's because she's a celebrity and she just has a certain amount of pull with people. But that has gone to an extent beyond that, where it's like she speaks with so much authority as if these things are true and they really work. And like,
she believes it.
She believes it, and she doesn't recognize that like she's completely full of crap to the point where she's basically a punchline. Another great example is, and this may not be one that everybody is familiar with, but this guy named Christopher Dunch, who was a neurosurgeon who was sentenced to life in prison in 2017 for maiming several of his patients through his neurosurgery.
Ooh, don't like that.
Yeah, no, it's not great. And he thought he was a fantastic surgeon. Apparently he was terrible.
Clearly,
right.
Another reminder. The person who graduated bottom of their class in med school still graduated.
Yeah.
You could be treated by the worst doctor in medical school.
Yeah, that's true.
And you probably have been.
Obviously. And, your doctor could be sentenced to life in prison for being terrible but thinking they're great. The last example of a person, I think we all know where I'm going with this, is Donald Trump. He's been called the Dunning-Kruger president. And after he was elected, this subject has gained a lot of popularity. I think the Wikipedia article on its own experienced like a 700%, or that's a totally made up statistic, but it was like a huge surge in views.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about his presidency.
No.
Because this isn't a political podcast.
Not at all.
And it could easily turn into one if we started talking about Trump's presidency. But let's just focus on everything before the presidency. I mean, we just found out that in the last 10 years, his companies have all been in the red. He's lost billions of dollars.
Well, he's declared corporate bankruptcy a bunch of times, right?
Something like 17.
Yeah.
He is not a good businessman. He was given a loan, a giant loan.
Small. It's a small loan.
We're not going into that. And he grew it into some money, and then he lost way more money over and over and over again. So when you look at these people who he believes he's a good businessman, you see this all the time. And it isn't just with Trump, but like you said, I'm sure we all know somebody who talks with such authority on things, but really knows nothing. I'm talking about myself now. This has turned into therapy for Kelsey.
We should just change the name of our podcast to the Dunning-Kruger podcast.
It'd be so, I mean, honestly, because we're doing that. We're acting as if we know.
I think, well, that's the thing. I think we acknowledge, at least enough for me, that we're not experts. We've said it before.
Yeah.
It will not be the last time. We're not experts on this thing. We like talking about it. Don't trust our authority.
No.
Because we're not authorities on most of this.
We're doing our best.
We're trying. We're just having a conversation about it. But I think maybe that means that we know more than we think we do. Whereas if we spoke with a certain amount of authority, it'd be pretty apparent that we have no idea what we're talking about.
Not our goal here.
Yeah.
In the nature of the Freddy Krueger effect. I can't remember the first guy's name. Sorry, man. Dunning. It's close enough. In the spirit of the Dunning-Kruger effect, Reese.
Yes?
What do you think you're below average at?
Oh, man. I wouldn't say... I was about to make a joke and say I'm not below average in anything. I don't know. I would say... I know personally from experience working at a coffee shop back in my early 20s that I'm terrible at that.
You could just say multitasking.
Yeah. Don't get me started on multitasking.
I would say I am vastly below average in patience. And I've worked very hard to get better at it. But I am not a patient person. There are troves of people more patient than me.
You know, you just don't have time for the BS.
I got time for nothing. I'm constantly... I think of the Tasmanian devil, who as a child really resonated with me because he's literally just in fast forward. And that's how I've always lived my life. I'm on the move. I got places to be. I don't have time to stop.
No.
But I'm working on it.
You're working on it. Well, it's good that we recognize those things.
You gotta do some self-evaluation sometimes.
That's the other thing is a lot of people have chalked this up to only being applicable to certain people. That's one thing you see a lot of the time in the conversation about Trump is like, oh, this guy clearly suffers from like Dunning-Kruger syndrome. And that's not exactly what it is. I think he's probably more subject to it than most of us are, but it's something that is an affliction for everybody because we all have blind spots. We all have things we're not good at, and we all have things that we don't know that we're not good at.
And it's really important to recognize those things.
Yeah.
And take feedback from other people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start working on my issue with patience until a couple of years ago, 3 to 5 years ago maybe, because I just figured everybody else should try to move as fast as I move. And that's not fair.
Yeah, I feel like our relationship has tested us both in that way because I'm clearly the opposite side of that.
Reese is below average in speed.
I like to move at my own pace, which is, leisurely. Potato, I guess. Yeah. So I think I think we've both grown in that way, right?
I would agree. I'd encourage everybody to work on this.
Yeah.
Take feedback. Feedback isn't supposed to be a negative thing. And if somebody approaches you and gives you negative feedback, screw them, but also consider.
Yeah.
Because maybe they have a point, even if they didn't state it in the most polite way.
Yeah, right. And it's important to self-reflect and, of course, just try to be better in general. I think understanding this effect and understanding some of the implications of that study, too, are really important and are helpful tools for us to be able to monitor that in ourselves. So check it out. We'll post a link to the study, the full study, on the blog post, and there are some really helpful graphs that they post in there too, and we'll put that up. Just take a look. It's great information.
Yeah. All right, so it is time for our new ending segment, which we toyed around with at the end of our first subseason, and people really liked it. So we're turning it into a permanent thing.
Yeah.
Which means I want everybody to listen closely to this sound.
What sound is that? Oh, what you got there?
If you're geeky like me, you might be able to tell that that is the sound of some dice banging together. Reese, would you do me a favor and pull one of the dice out of this little bag?
Just one of these?
Yep.
Okay, I got the green one.
Okay, Reese got the green one. So my plan is I have 3 different colored die, and for each color I have a different theme. The green is environmental, the red is just sort of miscellaneous, and the blue is related to humanitarian. So I'm going to have Reese roll his dice, and then I will have a corresponding number, and I will click on that, and I will read whatever the headline is, and we'll talk a little bit about what that feel-good story is.
Okay.
So his green one is environmental.
All right. So I should go ahead and roll?
So roll that dice.
All right. Okay, so it looks like I rolled a 6.
A 6? Okay, give me 1 second.
All right.
Oh, perfect. Great roll.
Yeah.
Because this one is actually pretty time sensitive. So I was hoping we'd get to it sooner rather than later.
Oh, good.
This one is about the trash tag challenge. Have you heard about this?
Mm-mm.
So it is a hashtag trash tag, and it is a challenge that has gone viral where it's photos of people sharing before and after pictures of a cleanup that they did.
Okay.
So this has taken the world by storm. People are doing it in so many countries. I've seen it in India. I've seen it in Nepal. I've seen it in African countries and European countries, Southeast Asia, and of course the US. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It came sort of on the heels of the Marie Kondo movement. So as we're getting rid of things, people are throwing a lot of things out. But there's also sort of this idea that we should be cleaning up after ourselves. But it has led to these huge beach cleanups. It's led to people who normally aren't getting out into nature, who normally don't care about the environment, going out. And the idea is you take a picture of all the trash before, and then you take a picture of all the bags and the clean, serene area after you've picked up all the trash.
That's a great idea.
It's a great idea. And it's something that I'm just so happy to see taking social media by storm.
Yeah. I'm not surprised because pretty much anything that will get those likes, people will go out and do. And I feel like this is a big one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a great way for people to get numerous likes.
Yeah.
But it's also a great way to better the planet that we live on.
Yeah. That's a terrific motivation.
So there's your little bit of happiness to end our podcast today.
That makes me feel really good.
Good. As always, I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Reese.
And this was Charismatic Megafauna.